Howdy, folks. Just a few housekeeping things. Hi. If you have any cell phones, please have them on silent or vibrate. You're welcome to step outside to take a call. Just silence the cell phones. There is photography allowed, just not flash. If you could turn off the flash on your cameras, I'd appreciate that. Also, any questions, please use there's a microphone in the center of the room. Please use that. This is being streamed live, so folks online can't hear you if you ask the question from your seat. So just use the microphone, and that's it. Enjoy.
Yes. Crushed it. Quick show of hands. I'm going to start off with some crowd participation. Raise your hand if you knew this building was here and part of the convention. You guys are smarter than we are. Congratulations. Oh, well, there you go. That's cheating. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. We're going to talk a lot about what we've got planned for 2014. We've got a lot of special guests here, and then obviously we'll take questions and answers, which hopefully will be vigorous and thoughtful. But if they're terrible and crass, we like that too.
And that requires your participation.
Yes. So yeah, let's get underway. I'm going to introduce everybody. My name is John Schork. I'm the director of Publicity for Oni Press. This is our editor-in-chief, James Lucas Jones. This is Cullen Bunn, Rick Spears, Joshua Hale Fialkoff, all hail Fialkoff, Charlie Chu, editor, Robin Herrera, associate editor, Justin Greenwood, and Mr. Greg Rucka.
Oh, wait. That's UGA.
All right, so let's kick this pig. It's just some quick instructions. Yeah,
Anything.
it is now. So hold on to your butts is what I'm trying to say here. So the first thing we're going to talk about, we're doing this in chronological order of when things are coming out in 2014, is Josh's new book,
Kind of.
The Life After.
Hi.
So, Josh, do you want to tell us a little bit? We've got Nick Pitara's fantastic cover, along with Gabo, the series artist's cover as well for issue number 1. It's going to be technically launching in July, but we're going to have preview issues at WonderCon, if any of you guys are going there or are really good at eBay.
Yeah, so The Life After is about a guy who is living the most mediocre day of his life over and over. He has, like you had that job when you were in high school or when you're in like college or just out, and it wasn't terrible, like it wasn't, shoveling shit, but it was, making Xeroxes all day, and you don't know why you're making Xeroxes. And, he lives in an apartment that's like slightly too small for all of his stuff, so he's got boxes everywhere still, and his thermostat's just like always set to 76, and it's just always a little too warm, and then if he can get it down, it's always a little too cold. Every day is just this sort of mediocre of a day. And then he sees a beautiful girl, every day of his life that he looks at, and he thinks to himself, like, one day I'm going to talk to this girl. And our book starts on the day when he decides to talk to her. And what he finds out is that the world that he's been living in, that he's just sort of accepted as this strange, odd life of his, is not the world he thought it would be. And the title might be a hint about where he is. I don't want to spoil anything. But it's sort of like a funny, weird portrait of this, kind of mashup afterlife where you combine all sort of different religious versions of what the afterlife means, and why some people get punished for just trying to be as happy as they can be in their own lives and all that stuff. It's lots of fun.
Does he have a sidekick, Josh?
That feels like a spoiler.
Okay.
It's not. No, it's okay. Well, he meets other famous dead people. And one of the first famous dead person he meets who kind of goes on the journey with him is Ernest Hemingway. So it's the two of them having an adventure through the afterlife. It's lots of fun.
Wait, Ernest Hemingway is dead?
Yes. He kicked death in the teeth, though.
Good.
He died better than anybody.
And after that, we've got another book coming out in July. Is a book called I Was the Cat, which is written by Paul Tobin and drawn by Benjamin Dewey, who are two guys who hopefully you know very well. Benjamin Dewey does a comic called the Tragedy Series online, which will enrich your life on a daily basis in 5 seconds or less. And Paul has written 1 million books and 1 million comic books. But Robin is actually editing this book, so Robin, why don't you tell him a little bit about Burma and his adventures?
Okay. So somehow, since starting as associate editor, I've become the person who has all the cat books. But, which I like, but this one is especially for people who look at their cats and wonder why they spend all day sleeping, and there must be something else going on in their heads, like they are secretly plotting horrible things. Yes.
It's about this cat who, over the course of its lives, has slowly been attempting world domination. And,
Over the course of 9 lives,
nine
as
lives.
cats have.
Yeah. So it's everything from, Napoleon to Queen Elizabeth. And then there's, a Blofeld-esque James Bond villain. There's maybe my favorite page of comics I've seen so far this year, where you guys remember Dino Riders? Ben drew this page. It's like a fantasy about a future cat war, and it's like cats meets Dino Riders, and I don't even like cats. And I was like, this is amazing. I want a 6-foot-tall poster of this in my house. But yeah, so that's coming out in July. It's a graphic novel. It's
It's
beautifully
going to be
illustrated.
a gorgeous hardcover.
Yeah, and it is hilarious. And I don't like cats, and I like this book a lot. So that should tell you
It's
something.
also for people who don't like cats. And people who do like cats.
It confirms my hypothesis that cats are evil inherently. After that, in August, we have a new book from Ray Fox. Have you guys read One Soul?
Yeah.
Right? Kind of a big deal. Gave your brain a bit of a haircut, didn't it? He's doing it again. This is the kind of thing, like, I can barely say it with a straight face because it sounds like the biggest lie and cliche in the world, but he found a new way to tell a story with comics. Again. And I wrote it in the press release. It's not a book that you read, it's a book that you experience, which sounds so lame. But it's true, and I can't find another way to say it. It tells these 24 interlocking stories, as you can kind of see on the cover. And it's all of these different people that get together and break up and live and die. And as it goes on, the panels, like when they get together, will meet and break apart and things like that. Panels will go dark when somebody dies. And it tells like this beautiful, massive story in kind of this very quiet, poetic way that it legitimately kind of blew my mind a little bit. So we're very excited about that. It'll be coming out in August. It's sort of, if you read and enjoyed One Soul, it's kind of almost a spiritual sequel to that, which is also another lame term that is just totally appropriate and kind of rules in that instance. After that, in summer 2014, we have a new six-gun series that I believe was written by Cullen Bunn, called Days of the Dead. It was co-written by you and Brian, and it's being drawn by Mike Norton, who you may know from The Answer and Battle Pug and Young Avengers and The Curse and being a giant. So you want to tell us a little bit about what people can expect from Days of the Dead?
Well, yeah, Days of the Dead, it's a 5-issue miniseries. It's similar to what we did with Sons of the Gun. It's a prequel of sorts to Six Gun. And this story follows Brother Roberto, who's on the cover there, who has featured prominently in the Six Gun, if you've been reading it, and also Jessup, who is if you've been reading the Six Gun, is one of the major villains in the series. And we find out that before the first issue of the Six Gun, those two had an encounter and went on an adventure, and they crossed paths, and this is that story. And it also has there's a lot of threads in this series in this miniseries that wind back and answer some unanswered questions from the main book.
We've got I have a couple other pages. I didn't want you to be talking when I showed these because I think people are hold on to your butts. That's all I'm saying. Look at that, a giant white whale jumping out of the sea, covered in harpoons.
It's a giant undead white.
It's a zombie Moby Dick.
Yeah. You ever seen that before? Didn't think so. Strap in.
Zombie Dick.
Zombie dick. Thanks, Charlie. Real nice.
My editor, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm really surprised it took that long to get to that, actually.
That was for the internet. Next, we were supposed to have, are you guys familiar with Jeff Parker? Woo! Yeah. Writer, mensch, wonderful guy. Jeff Parker was supposed to be on this panel, but Jeff Parker is taking a nap.
That's an
And
option.
You should definitely support his book. is what
yeah, as penance, he gave me permission to tell everybody that. But he sounded like a zombie on the phone. So I said I would talk about his new book, Meteor Men. And Charlie's the editor, so he can talk a little bit about it too. I've kind of been describing it as Close Encounters of the Third Kind meets Stand By Me. Kind of a small town story and an alien invasion, but it's very focused on this young group of friends. And Charlie, take it away.
Yeah, so Meteor Man is a full whoa, that's loud. It's a full color graphic novel by Jeff Parker and Sandy Jarrell, who did some amazing work for a couple issues on Wasteland, and colorist Kevin Volo. But it's sort of like, again, it's like that E.T. story of like, alien invades, boy meets alien, and then they have a meeting of the minds in one sense or another, and then, disaster looms and everything goes to hell. But it's a really kind of like a touching, amazing graphic novel that is just kind of like just a crazy showcase for Sandy and just all the things that you may have seen in some of Jeff Parker's other books, like Agents of Atlas or The Inner Man. And, it's a book I'm really, really excited about.
Yeah, Sandy also did, I think he did a couple issues of Batman 66 with Jeff. So he does amazing work, and that's coming out in September. If you see Jeff on the floor, make fun of him mercilessly for missing this panel, and tell him I told you to do that. If you feel like it.
Yeah, for the longest time, we were calling this book UF Bro.
Yeah.
So if you ask him about this book, ask about UF Bro, and then see how he reacts.
Yeah.
And then demand that we change it to UF Bro.
And if he's asleep, wake him up.
Yes.
Next, we've got the next book in the Merman series. There's some great comics by Joey Weiser, who did a lot of work on SpongeBob SquarePants, which maybe you guys have heard of that, or are wearing something with it on it right now. There's always a strong chance of that. It's volume 3 of Merman. It's called Deep Dive, and that's coming out in September as well. And the first 2 volumes of Merman, Merman is sort of he's Merman the merman from Mer. Kind of washes up, becomes friends with some kids, but now in volume 3 we're getting to see where he actually came from. So you're seeing Mer, I think for the first time.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is.
Yeah, and he's, as you can see, he's doing some sort of kind of water bending in this thing, or trying to. He's having a real Yoda moment. A yeoman, if you will. But Robin is also editing this one. Would you like to talk a little bit about your love of Merman? Because I know
I do love Merman.
I
Actually,
know.
there's an office-wide love of Merman, and also Merman's little companion, Benny. And in this volume, I'm extra excited because Merman has a little sister named Merma, and she is the cutest ever. And so I'm trying to spread office love of Merma now. But I know Troy Look, who is in our production department, he will be gunning for a Benny plush until he dies.
do you think we could do an I Was the Cat crossover for Burma and Murma?
Yes.
Maybe Merman 4, Murma and Louise?
Let me, if you don't mind me jumping in, I do want to say, if you have, also, Merman's, it's a fun book just to read, but if you have kids,
Yeah.
this is an awesome book for kids. My son is 5, and I find a hard time, he likes to read, but obviously I'm trying to foster this love of comics onto him, and it's not as easy as I was hoping it would be. He loves this book. I mean, he loves Merman with a passion. I mean, to the way he laughs out loud as we read it together. So, I mean, it's a great book for kids, too. If you have a kid in your life that you want to start sharing the love of comics with, this is a good book to do it.
What if you're a 35-year-old man who really loves Merman?
Well, that's fine, too. I
Or
love
Benny.
Merman.
No judgments.
I
At
love
any
Merman,
age.
too, but...
Merman is a book that loves you back.
Aww.
Trademark.
That's better than what I was going to say, which was Merman is like crack for kids.
Wow.
They can't get enough.
Except the first taste isn't free.
Yeah, the first taste is
20
free.
I'm sure.
Full color crack for kids.
So next, I'm guessing a few of you guys have probably heard of a book called Stumptown. and a dude named Greg Rucka, and a private eye called Dex. So Stumptown is returning as an ongoing series in September. And we've got Greg, and it's being drawn by Justin Greenwood, who you may know from being the most reliable artist in comics. And somehow drawing 2 books a month, but doing a good job, which I still think you're a warlock or something.
Thank you, buddy. I am a warlock.
Oh, there you go. That explains it.
Say it for the internet.
Yeah. I am a warlock.
And it's being colored. I wanted to show this sequence. We sent this out with the press release because I was asking James talk to Greg and think about what you want to show, and he said, I think I have the perfect 2 pages that shows off kind of the vibe of this main character's
Yeah,
life.
it's still stuck. It's still Stumptown.
That's perfect. So her life is basically summed up by a faulty vending machine. But it's being colored by Ryan Hill, who is now coloring Judge Dredd, the City of Courts, I think it's called, the crazy Ulysses Farinas Judge Dredd book. And here are some of the color pages that he's going to be doing. So there'll be a lot more of that, but I'm going to shut up and let Greg and Justin talk about this book.
You go first.
Please, you go first.
No, you go first.
Justin, what's it like drawing
Warlock.
Stumptown?
Justin Warlock.
I'm loving it. I mean, I love the book to begin with, so it's fun to actually get a shot at getting to draw it, you know? It's an awesome book.
We're having some fun with this so far. It is, Stumptown was always envisioned to be an ongoing, where we would take off months between arcs and then come back with the next one. And for a variety of reasons, that schedule never worked out. So now, 5 years later, or longer, God, we're actually going to give it a try. And I think so far, Justin and I are having just a blast with this.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's allowing for some different tonal stuff. If you've read the first 2 series, the first 2 minis, we haven't really seen Dex take something really personally. This story, she takes it personally, and you get to see angry Dex, not frustrated Dex, not just downtrodden Dex, not normally when life slaps her, she kind of sits back and then sort of grins, and this time she leans forward and I haven't finished writing it yet, but where I am now, there's a very good possibility you're going to see a gun in her hand before the end of it. I'm not sure whether or not it's going to get fired, but I feel very strongly that you don't. She is a character who does not take up a weapon unless she intends to use it.
That sounds very promising.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to it. And then we didn't get to talk about this last night. We got to go to dinner last night, but the arc after it is still untitled, but will be, you get to meet her family. So you get to meet parents who think naming a kid Dexedrine is a good idea. And siblings who think that Dexedrine is a good idea. So.
And after that, so that's starting in September. Like we said, in October, we're having another little Cullen Bunn extravaganza, as we're wont to do. The first part of which is Brides of Helheim, the sequel miniseries to Helheim. Rickard is back. There is all manner of horrifying, unimaginable monsters and completely savage, barbaric, super metal things going on. But I'd let Colin tell us a little bit about the story itself.
This, on the other hand, is not a book I would let your kids read.
Unless your kids are awesome.
No. No kid is awesome enough for this. No. So Brides of Helheim started out, honestly, the title started as a joke. I wrote it at the end of the script to the final issue of Helheim. I wrote just a note to tease my artist, Joel Jones. I said, and coming up next, Brides of Helheim. And it kind of stuck. If you haven't read Helheim, it's sort of a Viking-era Frankenstein story featuring Rickard, who is our hero of sorts, who's stitched together from the bodies of numerous dead Vikings and other dead creatures. And this story takes place a few years after the events of Helheim, so some of the characters have changed and grown, and even Ricard has gone through a little bit of a change, and we get to see. We get to see these witches who kind of set Ricard on this path. We get to see the person who made them what they were, and the person who was their mentor. And it goes very bad very quickly. And Ricard fights a bear.
I think that much in the way the vending machine sequence in Stumptown kind of sums up the attitude of that book. I think this scene speaks pretty well to Helheim, which is the main character will fight a bear like it's kind of not.
And he gets his
it's not a
head.
big deal.
He gets his head bitten off by the bear, and that doesn't stop him.
No,
That just makes him angry.
it's an unstoppable killing
Which is what
machine.
happens to me when my head gets bitten off by bears.
And then, so that starts in October, and also starting in October is a brand new Cullen Bunn series called Hellbreak that is being drawn by Brian Chirilla, who drew Six Guns, Sons of the Gun, and wrote and drew The Secret History of D.B. Cooper. And he was just announced as drawing Big Trouble in Little China, which is, that's going to be pretty rad. But he, again, is another, we have a lot of creators that love drawing monsters.
That's right.
But they're all really nice people. It's weird. But it's being colored by Jordi Belair, and again, I'm gonna let Cullen tell you about it.
So first, I'll address the giant bear in the room, which is that I have Helheim and Hellbreak both starting in October, and I would love to give you the answer that they are part of a thematic trilogy. But the true answer is I pitched them both at the same time years ago and thought for sure that I couldn't fool Oni twice into accepting both of these projects. But they didn't, and after the fact, we said, well, maybe we should rename one, and we really couldn't think of a better name for either of those series. But Hellbreak is a story of a group of hardcore, battle-hardened mercenaries, essentially, who are tasked with journeying into hell and retrieving lost souls. There are an infinite number of hells, so every time they journey out, they go to a different version of hell, and every mission is ghastly and horrible. But they're doing this. They're doing this because what we find is that when a person is possessed, their soul is displaced. The demon takes up residence in the person's body, and the soul is tossed out into one of these infinite number of hells. And this team works with the church, and as an exorcism is taking place in our world, this team is retrieving the soul from one of these versions of hell. So we get a story that's a story taking place in the real world, and a story taking place in one of these numerous hells.
So metal, so metal. Look at that monster. It's a moving mountain of eyeballs. This book is gonna rule. And then there's an office scene after that, sort of. But
There's a lot of eyeball things in
it's
Oni
tough to
books.
follow the giant mountain of all-consuming eyeballs and teeth, and yeah, it's starting to creep me out now. In December, we have a book called See You Dad, which we've been talking about for a while. It was co-created by the Russo brothers, who are directing this really tiny independent movie called Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I don't know. I think I've seen a couple things about it on the internet. I think it's hitting the festival circuit. Might be opening wide soon. It was an idea they came up with, and they wrote it with Andy Parks, who wrote Capote in Kansas and Union Station and a bunch of other great books. And it's sort of this really gritty, gnarly, sort of almost like a Man on Fire type story that takes place at the Triple Frontier in South America. And Charlie is editing this one and is a very ardent fan of it. So maybe you can break it down.
It's like a super, super crazy, violent sort of homage to action movies. Like it's kind of like The Raid, the comic, set in Ciudad del Este, which is like this place full of like, you know, gangsters, corrupt policemen, and it's about this this world-weary mercenary type who's hired to do this job where he has to go extract the daughter of a drug kingpin who's languishing in jail and is being blackmailed. So this guy has to go in one of the worst places on the planet and go pull this, teenage girl out. And it's literally like one dude versus everyone in the city and all of their machine guns and rocket launchers and, speeding cars and knife fights and neck breakings and all sorts of good, fun, family-friendly stuff.
Yeah, and that's coming out in December, and it's, I don't know, if you pick it up, it might burn your hands a little bit. It's
Yeah.
pretty brutal. But if you like that kind of thing, you're in luck. Also in December, we've got a book called Orphan Blade, which I believe, did I see Jake Myler out there? That's Jake who drew these pages. Let's give it up. And that's coming out in December. It was, Robin, you're editing this one too, aren't you?
Yes, and I'm editing with Jill Beaton, who's also back there.
Yeah.
So Jill actually edited pretty much most of this project and the other projects I'm editing. I'm just kind of finishing them up. Orphan Blade is all complete, and that was pretty much all Jill, so we are wrapping some things up together. But Orphan Blade is one of my very favorite things ever. That's the pitch. But no, it is hard to describe without me tearing up, but it's a really great story, and the world is so rich and lived in. It's just amazing.
I can't see. Is she crying?
Not yet.
That would be great.
Would it?
I've never seen that on
No,
a panel before.
it
That would
would
be
not be
amazing.
great. But basically, the story follows this boy named Tadashi, who lives in a world where kaiju have come from another world and ravaged the crap out of the planet. And the only way to defeat these kaiju was building weapons out of their own bodies, basically. And these weapons have these magical properties. But they're also cursed weapons. And so Hadashi, after his hand gets maimed by a little alien toad, which is it's a really cool sequence. He can't wield a normal blade, but there's this blade called the Orphan Blade that doesn't care who you are, because it wields you. That should be the tagline. Orphan Blade, it wields you.
That's good. I like it.
But the Orphan Blade, of course, is cursed, and so it has major ramifications on Hadashi and his personality. So it's not only an action-filled story, it is like a redemption story a little bit. Except since this is volume 1, we don't get to the redemption part yet.
Spoilers.
That should be the tagline. Orphan Blade, no redemption.
Yeah.
And while Jake Myler is here, unfortunately, this is a book that we're having to release posthumously. It was written by a very talented young writer named Nicholas Almond, who unfortunately passed away this fall before being able to see the book finish, which is also one of the reasons why it's such an emotional release for us.
Yeah, and it'll be a good one. And we're excited for people to finally see that. Again, that's in December, and we've got a couple things we're going to finish off with that are coming out in 2015. One of which is a new Jamie S. Rich book called Ares and Aphrodite that is being drawn by Megan Levins. And it's sort of did you guys ever see Intolerable Cruelty? Man, that guy, yeah, bow tie, you get it. You're picking up what I'm putting down. It's sort of a kind of Rock Hudson Doris Day homage to sort of, I think, screwball romantic comedies, but it's a divorce lawyer falls in love, and antics ensue, because how could they not? And on the right,
With a wedding planner.
with a wedding planner, that's right. So opposites attract. And next to that is a page from a book called Junior Braves of the Apocalypse, which I am just going to let Charlie get straight into because he's so excited about this book.
So Junior Braves is one of the first projects I got to edit at Oni Press, and it's a book by Greg Smith, who's out there, Michael, Writer Michael Tanner and artist Zach Lehner. The best way I could describe it is it's like Goonies, but with teeth. So it's about a group of junior braves who go out camping with their grizzled old scoutmaster for, a weekend of adventure and fun and, learning how to grow up and do things. And they come back down and the world has been ravaged by a disastrous apocalypse of mutants and, they're not quite zombies, but they're pretty much zombies. So it's about these boys dealing with this horrific situation, but because they're like super young, emotionally, like they're not quite there to process all these things. So like they're sort of sticking to like the scout code to try and deal with all these situations that they're running into. And this book is the first volume in what is, hypothetically and hopefully a series of books about, growing up and, all these adventures and craziness and these 8 to 11-year-olds turning into men eventually over a period of time.
And over a pile of dead bodies.
Yes. Yeah, like the disaster hits and they're looking for their families and it's like all chaos and craziness and, helpful hints on how to tie knots.
You learn the true lesson that the portal to manhood is savage murder. We're going to talk about a book that's already out now, a little book called The Auteur that is written by Mr. Rick Spears. This is one of my personal favorite books. Like, I could not love this book more. And we've been having a lot of fun yelling at people about it, and the response has been really great. But if you haven't picked it up yet, we have it at the booth. But I'll let Rick kind of give you the elevator pitch on it, and we'll move past my crass marketing efforts.
The Auteur, it is about this Hollywood filmmaker, producer who, he's coming off a disastrous mega flop. They shot this sci-fi film, and they shot the sequels all at the same time, as they will do sometimes, and spent $500 million. And then the first one tanked, ensuing that they're ensuring that the rest of them will go down in flames as well. So his career is sort of blown up in front of him. And he's trying to figure out some crazy way to get back on top, utilizing hallucinogenic drugs and bad choices.
Or good choices.
And we sort of set up that he's going to make this outrageous horror film called President's Day, and he's going to hire a actual serial killer as a murder consultant to work on the film to give it authenticity, But and that's the cover of number 2, Godzilla as Justice, and then number 3 will be about a lot of boobs. So
The crushing power of boobs. Number 1's kind of great. It's this ridiculous ride where he's working out the idea for President's Day and goes on like a lot of hallucinogenic drugs, putting cobra venom in his coffee and stuff. And it rolls into issue 2 where it's almost like a legal drama, but in a very hilarious way. And it's I've said this before, but again, this is another. I'm just full of like really bad cliches that are tragically true. I have not read another comic like this. Just straight up, there isn't anything else out there like it. So we highly recommend it. We're super excited about it. I'm not just being paid to say that. And we also, Rick was the writer of another series of books called Black Metal. Yes. Volume 3 of which just came out and is debuting at the show, and has been moving briskly. And people have been waiting for this one for a long time. And it is beyond fantastic and is full of Satan and Ragnarok and killer angels and swearing and zombies and demons and death and just all the major food groups. So Rick, do you want to talk a little bit about what went into Volume 3? How does it feel to be done?
it's been a long road to get all 3 of them out. When we first started working on it, Chuck and I, he was like, "Yeah, we should do like 3 books." And I was like, "We should do 1 book and just see how it goes." And I was like, "No, we should do 3 books." And that just sounded like a lifelong commitment, which it has been. But we did the first book, and I sort of tacked on a sort of bullshit cliffhanger. Then I had to figure out what to do with 2 more volumes. And we're real pleased how it came out. It's hard to talk about it too much because if you've read the second one, the two brothers are dead at the end of it. So obviously we had to deal with that. Yeah, but
Spoiler alert.
that's what I'm saying.
They're dead on the cover of the third one. It's okay.
But yeah, Chuck's here too, and we're signing at the Oni booth. We also have our own table. I think it's like F15, but we got copies. And
Yeah, and
if you like the other two, I'm real proud of this one. It really came together, and Chuck just drew the hell out of it. He won an Eisner for the first one, and I really think he deserves one for this one too. It's just he hit it out of the park. So yeah, we're real pleased.
Yeah.
It's a really satisfying read with the 3 books.
Yeah, and it honestly, it feels like the ending that it's been building to, whether or not that's actually true. It feels that way, and it ends in a very, very epic fashion.
Yeah, it's the entire war of heaven versus hell with jokes
Yeah,
and hellfire.
yeah. And with that, I think we're going to start taking some questions, and maybe we'll give you some answers. So you can step on up to the microphone, or you can just, or no, I guess you have to use the microphone for the internet.
Okay.
For the internet.
It's for the internet.
Your
I have-
questions are going out live.
Yeah, I have a question for the internet.
Cricket,
What the hell, man? What's with all that stuff? But yeah, I'm gonna shut up now. Yeah, to the microphone, please.
I have a question for Robin. Are you a cat person?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I've had to write a bio because I published a book recently. So I've had to. Yay!
Robin, what's your book called?
It's called Hope is a Ferris Wheel, and it's a sweet, sort of coming of age story. It's a trailer trash soap opera that is hilarious. But I've had to write a bio over and over again for every interview I do and for my book. And the one thing that stays the same is the first sentence is always, Robin Herrera is an aspiring cat lady. Which is true.
My question is for Cullen. So I've been a big fan of Helheim and Six Gun for a while now. So you've been quite a prolific writer in the past several years, writing a lot of books, not only for Oni, but other companies. So two-part question. What is your average workday like, and how do you maintain the quality of your books when you're spread across so many different creative efforts?
Well, my average workday for me, you know, I worked full time early on in my comic career. I was working a full-time job and then also writing comics at night. And it was the last couple of years before I went full-time as a comic book writer was brutal. So I have to remind myself that I never want to go back to that again. I treat it like a job. I get up early in the morning. Sometimes I'll write a little before my kid wakes up. Once my kid goes to school at about 8:30, I go downstairs and I clock in and I work all day long. I work until about 5, and then sometimes I'll work again. You know, later in the evening after he goes to bed, I'll work again, and as far as balancing the different titles, it's just I don't necessarily find it that difficult for me usually. I enjoy what I'm doing, so sometimes it's a challenge, but usually it's a challenge that I welcome and I enjoy. And to be honest, and this, as I say it, I realize it sounds like a sickness. I'm really only happy when I'm working. I am happiest when I'm doing work. When I'm watching TV, I have a notebook in my hand and I'm jotting down ideas. About the only times I'm not working, is if I'm playing with my kid or we're eating dinner or something like that. I won't work during those times. But most of the other time, I'm doing some level of work. At some level, I'm working, and I'm very unhappy when I'm not accomplishing things, when things aren't falling off the task list. Thanks.
Thank you. And before I forget, we also, there's a new book we've been talking about called Princess Ugg by Ted Nafee, who does the Courtney Crumrin series. And it's starting up this summer, but we're also going to have an early black and white version of it at WonderCon, but we brought a box here. So everybody that came to the panel at the end, come up and grab one. It's a little early edition called the Herzerker, and it's a hilarious little book, and we're very excited about that too. So as a reward for coming here and hanging out with us, free comics, because everybody should get free comics. We've still got a few minutes left if anybody has any more questions. I can feel it in the air. Yeah, Gabo.
Also, this is Gabo,
Yeah.
who's the artist on Life After, who I didn't see because there's a spotlight right in my eyes.
And needs to go and use the mic. Use the mic.
You have to use the microphone.
Come on,
This
dude.
is for the internet, man.
What else are you gonna do wrong today?
Request.
The only panels that I go to are anime panels, so they don't have these fancy schmancy setups like this, all right? How many more issues of this book am I gonna have to do, like 40 panels on on one panel?
Well, I mean, you had to
of
do it
one
like
page?
3 times in the first one.
You
No,
sadist.
I'm not complaining. I'm
Right.
asking how many more.
Everyone.
So, okay, good.
Everyone.
If we can have an
Awkward.
entire.
It was
Awkward.
really, you liked the gimmick. You signed up
I
for
loved
the
it.
gimmick. You
I
were
loved
on
it.
board
I
with the
asked
gimmick.
for it. I asked for it. No, so
It-
maybe
it-
like issue 5, it could just be all.
So this is actually this is a challenge.
3,000
Yeah.
panels. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that. I want to
Yeah,
beat
we
the
could
hell out.
probably
I
set
want to.
some kind of record.
I know. We're working on it. We're gonna like I've slowly throughout the course of my career I've been finding ways to more and more deeply abuse my artists, and
It's okay. I've got
and
Obamacare.
with
My hands
Gabo I've found my muse in that I'm trying to break him. I want him to become an accountant. He's just gonna pack it in and call it a day.
Well, you know the old saying, you can't spell abuse without most of the letters in muse.
Yeah. There you go.
That's terrible.
This isn't a question. I just want to say I love all you guys' work.
Thank you.
But I have to give it to John for being the best hype man I've ever heard. Literally, like, everything, you're just, like, crushing it. Freaking metal. Like, you're the best hype man. You should hype everyone's panel.
I don't know what to say, man. Thank you.
John's panel.
I think I'm a mountain of human garbage, but what are you gonna do? Can't please everybody.
What are some of the exclusives that we have at the show here?
Yes,
this
we
weekend,
have
John?
an exclusive cover of the Bunker #2 that was done by Rob Guillory, who we may know from Chew.
Huh.
And
I understand that there was only 300 of those printed.
I was getting to that, man.
Yeah.
Come on. There were only 300. There's only a few left, but tomorrow, Josh and Joe Infernari, the artist on the Bunker, and Rob are all going to be signing together from 1 to 2 at the Oni booth, and we're keeping some back just for that. So that's going to be the last place to get it because they're going to be gone by tomorrow. They'd be gone by today, but we like our fans, and we didn't want to bum out Rob. Hey, come sign at our booth. We don't have your comics, but we also, like I said, Black Metal 3 debuted here. The Helheim trade actually just came out, and we have that here. And just for the first printing, you can come by the booth and see it. It has a 6-page fold-out poster that is much like a lot of our books, super metal. It's one giant interlocking image that Joel Jones did that I think was the cover for the Phantom variants or the Ghost variants or whatever. I don't know, the Goblin, whatever. I don't know. There's so many of them. But you can come by and see that, and that's debuting here. Like I said, those are only going to be in the first print, so don't wait on a trade. Can you trade wait for a trade? Can you double up that way? We also have the first issue of the Auteur. We have the Eric Powell variant, which is going fast as well.
It has Stan Lee's boobs on it.
It does. Triple Excelsior. It says that. I didn't make that up. And we've got plenty of Scott Pilgrim, and the power of Rachel Maddow. We sold out of Queen and Country #1 today, like that. We had a giant stack of them, and people were eating it up. We have the first 2 volumes of Stumptown, and we have the volumes 2 through 4 of the definitive editions of Queen and Country. If you've been a bad Greg Rucka fan, you need to catch up. And if you need to get ready for the Stumptown ongoing in September and experience what Portland is like through a dirty little lens. And we've got a lot of other good stuff.
We also got the Gunslinger editions of the
Yes.
6 gun, which are the ginormous, crazy, General Hume coffin box sets, which we have a super limited amount.
I was going to bring one with me, but I've got back problems.
Yeah, and you can only get them through us either at conventions or direct online, but you really should come by the Oni booth and check them out because you can take them and beat your friend to death with one of them, which is
Yeah.
always fun. And it takes the blood really well. But it's a gorgeous...
It's very absorbent paper.
It's a gorgeous version of the 6 gun that is like super amazing to read. If you haven't read the series, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. We're also we're giving out free high fives all the time, all day.
I've been charging for them at the table. I thought we talked about that it cost $2. Was that
No,
not?
we did, and we settled on the fact that you're a monster. High fives are free. They
I
come
don't
from
like
the
when
soul.
you guys undercut me. It's not cool.
Hey man, don't try and take something that should be free. And we're giving away stuff during all of our signings. So books, T-shirts, Scott Pilgrim coins, Courtney Crumman barrettes, all kinds of cool little things. We do have Oni Press T-shirts, and we also have one of the official Ramona Flowers bags that we're showing off. That's coming later this year, but you can swing by and see it. We put it on the internet, and it was very popular. So you're welcome, the internet. And we have our penalty cards if you're worried about getting harassed, which hopefully you're not. It seems like I don't expect that out of this show. You're a good crowd. Everybody here seems polite and nice and like decent human beings, but you never know. And yeah, I feel like shutting up now. I'm just babbling. But thank you guys so much for coming out. We're going to end 2 minutes early, but that'll give us time to hand out free comics and handshakes and high fives and all kinds of good stuff. So thank you, and we'll see you guys around.